look at the Week 11 waiver wire targets that Michael F. Florio compiles. Take us through your list this week.
Yeah, Cam Newton is my number one quarterback ad. If you didn't hear, Cam Newton reminded the world yesterday that he is, in fact, back. Tua Tagovailoa came in relief last week and played pretty well. I think with the long bye week now, we could get him back against the Jets. And then Mac Jones, he played really well this week. He gets a good matchup next week against the Falcons. A.J. Dillon is my top ad of the week right now with Aaron Jones out the next couple of weeks. Ramondre Stevenson, we just spoke about him. He's been playing really well. Deontay Foreman had led the Titans backfield in snaps and touches this past week. Diornis Johnson, I know Nick Chubb could be back, but Diornis Johnson is a really good backup handcuff, so I think you want him on your roster. Ty Johnson just keeps getting the job done, keeps seeing big targets in that passing game. Wayne Gallman looks like he might have taken over for Mike Davis there. Rashad Bateman, please add this guy so I could stop putting him on this list already. He needs to be rostered in more leagues. Continuing with the receivers, Elijah Moore, he got the job done again this past week. Jamal Agnew didn't have a catch, but still top double-digit fantasy points again. His usage is just very consistent there. T.Y. Hilton is back and tied for the team lead in targets. Deontay Harris and Traquan Smith are the top pass catchers there in New Orleans. Marcus Johnson we spoke about as a deeper league target. Dan Arnold just keeps getting targets and keeps scoring double-digit fantasy points. Tyler Conklin looking like a useful option there. And then some deeper tight ends if you're in a deeper league. Adam Trautman and Austin Hooper, just off of the volume they've been getting as of late.
So let's go back, though, to Cam Newton. He didn't play a ton, but he scored 2 touchdowns, one rushing, one passing. As we mentioned, he told everybody that he was back, and he was promptly flagged for that. Boo. I know these are our bosses, but boo. Don't throw a flag on the man, right? He's been out of the league. He's celebrating. The play was over. Let him take it. It's fine. Whatever.
And he's back home, too.
Right. He's back home in Carolina where he started his career. Side note, by the way, apparently Sam Darnold had Robbie Anderson in football jail. Not that Anderson was super spectacular yesterday, but he actually did things, and it's been a while since he has done things. But is Cam a QB1 now that he's back and presumably going to be the starter in Carolina?
Borderline. I think he's more of a upside QB2, but he's definitely a top 15 quarterback, I would say. Last year, 12 rushing touchdowns led all quarterbacks. 592 rushing yards was third, and he actually has better playmakers around him with DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson, Christian McCaffrey. So I think we could get better passing numbers out of Cam as well. And the next 3 weeks, the schedule is very friendly for him. Washington, Miami, Atlanta, all teams in the top 6, at least heading into week 10 in fantasy points allowed to quarterbacks. So I think unless you have a stud quarterback, you should be trying to get Cam Newton off the waiver wire this week.
I went last week and I added Cam in a whole lot of spots. Now I didn't have the foresight to start him in any of those, but I know I'm going to have some decisions to make because I know there's at least 1 or 2 rosters where I have Jalen Hurts and Cam Newton, so I'm going to really be kind of scratching my head about the matchups and trying to figure out whether or not that's a thing I want to do, but he should be rostered. I would expect that by the end of this week, or at least by the end of the waiver wire period in most leagues, he's going to be very heavily owned across fantasy football just because, one, the excitement is back. Look, fantasy Twitter lights up whenever Josh Gordon was going to do things, right? So I can't imagine that we're not going to see excitement about Cam Newton. As we sit right now and record this show, he is rostered in 16.2% of NFL.com leagues. I suspect that number is going to go up significantly by the time we do our next show on Wednesday. Dan Arnold, and you talked about him as being a guy that maybe you would sort of ride with over Hunter Henry because of the volume. Again, tight end is maybe as gross as it has ever been in fantasy football. But Dan Arnold, is he understanding the kind of the nebulous nature of this? Is he a tight end 1 right now?
Yes, I think he is. This guy leads the team in targets since the Jaguars acquired him. He has at least 5 targets in 5 straight games with 7 or more in 4 of those. So he's getting pretty safe, reliable volume. He has topped double-digit fantasy points in every game with at least 7 targets. So double-digit fantasy points, Marcus, is enough to keep you on that borderline tight end 1 radius each week. So I think if he is not a tight end 1, he is just on the outside of it. But he is definitely a consistent tight end, which is hard to find nowadays. So I make the case that he is a tight end 1 and someone that should be rostered in more leagues than he is.
he should definitely be rostered in more leagues. I think some of it is, one, nobody really knows who he is outside of fantasy circles, and two, he plays for the Jaguars. I think those are the two things that are sort of working against him. But if you were willing to dive into it and look at it a little bit, he is getting a lot of work there. He is, the Jaguar passing game has been a disaster to the point that people are wondering whether or not Trevor Lawrence is overhyped and overrated. I'm not willing to say that just yet, but when they are having success, generally it's because they're getting the ball to Dan Arnold and or Jamal Agnew. So he should probably get more consideration than he has been getting so far. All right, I guess this is the top waiver wire target for Week 11. Who is it for you?
For me, it is AJ Dillon. I mean, he is, even if it's just for 1 or 2 weeks. I think it'll be 2 weeks because then the Packers have a bye, so I think they're going to want Aaron Jones healthy for the playoffs. I think we get Dillon the next 2 weeks, but that is 2 weeks of an RB1. That is hard to find. The RB1s don't grow on trees, so I think he is a guy that you could pick up and definitely get into your starting lineup. He is my top pickup of the week, and if he's already rostered in your league, then I think it's Cam Newton.
I'm going to go with A.J. Dillon as well, just because, as you mentioned, running backs are sort of hard to come by, and anytime a guy's going to get volume, and we know that's going to happen for the next couple of weeks, I think he needs to be on a roster. I would say if he's not the guy, if he's already rostered, or you just don't want to go that direction, Ramondre Stevenson's another one. He may not be the lead running back in New Orleans or in New England, but he should still get plenty of opportunities. So those are the two guys that I would probably lean on right now, although I do like Cam. The idea of picking up Cam and kind of stashing him for whenever you need him does feel like a really nice option.